Now the second video is going to be started now. As it is a topic of polynomials, we have defined it in the first part. P of x is equal to axn plus bxn minus 1 plus cxn minus 2 plus dxn minus 3 and so on. Now there are two things which are important here. The coefficient of the highest power and the highest power. For example, if the highest power is an odd number and a is greater than 0, then right side will be upward and the left side will be downward in the graph. If a is less than 0, then the right side will be downward and the left side will be upward. When n is an even number and a is greater than 0, then both ends will move upward, and if a is less than 0, then the both ends will be downward. Now we will draw the different equations and we draw the sketch according to this theory. We know one thing, that for example, if y equal to 3x plus 2, then the highest power of x is here 1. So we will just consider this equation there. Highest power is 1 and a is equal to 3, which is greater than 0. So when it is an odd number and a is greater than 0, then the right side of that graph will be upward and the left side of this graph will be downward. So this will be the sketch of this graph. It is plus 2. This is the right side of this graph, which is upward. And this is the left side of this graph, which is downward. Suppose y equal to minus 3x minus 1. Here n is equal to 1. Highest power of that coefficient. And n a is equal to minus 3, which is less than 0. The highest power is an odd, which is 1 there. And the coefficient of x power n is a, which is less than 0. That is, right side will be downward and the left side will be upward. So the graph of this thing will be like this. It is minus 1. The left side of this graph is upward and right side of this graph is downward. So this is the graph of y is equal to minus 3x minus 1. Suppose y equal to 3x 2 there plus 1. Now we know that here n is equal to 2 and a is equal to 3, which is greater than 0. So it is an odd even power there. It will cut at 1 there, y-intercept. So both, if n is an even number and a is greater than 0, then both ends of the graph will be upward. So this is the graph of this, that both sides of this graph are upward there. Y equal to 2x minus 1 into x minus 2 there. Now, if we multiply this, we just need the coefficient, the highest power there. It will be 2x square and plus something. We don't need even the next terms there. Just we have to draw the sketch of this part there. Where n is 2, which is an even number, and a is equal to 2, which is greater than 0. So both ends should be moving upward to that. Now, if this is the graph of that, if we put this thing is equal to 0, it will be the value of half there. And if this is equal to 0, then it is the value of 2 there. Since the coefficient is even and a is greater than 0, so both ends will be moving upward there. Fifth, y equal to 1 minus 2x into x minus 3. Now, you need the coefficient of the highest power here. So, highest power will be minus 2x into x will give you minus 2x square plus something. Now, we draw the graph of this. It is 0 there, so it should be equal to half. And if this is 0, it should be equal to 3. The coefficient of x square is minus 2, where a is equal to minus 2, which is less than 0. So both ends of this graph will be downward to that. So this means if this is the x-axis and this one is the y-axis, then the graph of this would be like this, because both ends are shown downward in this graph here. Let's say this is the equation of that y is equal to x plus 1 into x minus 1 into 2x minus 3. Now, x into 2x will give us 2x cube and so on. We just need the highest power of that coefficient there and highest power. Here, the highest power is there 3 and a is equal to 2, which is greater than 0. So, the right side of this graph will be upward and the left side of this graph will be downward. Now from this, we can draw the sketch of this graph there. This is x-axis, this is y-axis. If this one is equal to 0, then its value will be equal to minus 1. If this is equal to 0, then its value will be equal to 1. And if this is equal to 0, then its value will be 3 by 2. This is the number line system of that graph. Since it is an odd power, and the coefficient of that one is 2, which is greater than 0. So the right point is this and the left point is this. So it will be passing from these 3 different points, and this is the graph of that equation there. Suppose y equal to x minus 2, x plus 1 into 1 minus 3x. They are already factorized form there. Now we know one thing, that x into minus 3x will give us minus 3x cube and so on. Now we draw the sketch of this part there. If it is equal to 0, x minus 2, then its value will be equal to plus 2. If this value is equal to 0, then its value will be equal to minus 1. And if this value is equal to 0, then its value will be equal to 1 over 3. Now, as it is odd power, so when it is an odd power, then you have to look at the coefficient of highest power, which is minus 3. So a is equal to minus 3, which is less than 0. So that means right side of this graph will be downward and the left side of this graph will be upward. So right side is this, which is downward to that. The right side is downward and the left side is what? Upward. So the graph of this will be passing from this. So you have seen it that the left side of this graph is upward and the right side of this graph is downward to that. Now we use the next y equal to x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 2, and x minus 2. Since the highest power is x into x into x is 2x, that is equal to x4 plus something. The coefficient of x4 is 1 there. So a is equal to 1, which is greater than 0, and the highest power is an even number. So when it is an even number and it is greater than 0, then the both ends of that graph will be upward. So we draw the sketch of this. This is x-axis. This one is y-axis. It is minus 1. It is plus 1. It is minus 2. It is plus 2 there. So both ends are what? Upward. So we start from this. We'll pass from these points and you will draw it like this, that both ends are upward there. Now we draw the different values of that sketch with the repeated roots and the same theory there, that if n is odd and a is greater than 0, then the right side will be upward and the left side will be downward. If a is less than 0, right will be downward and the left side will be upward. If n is an even number and a is greater than 0, then the both ends will move upward, and if a is less than 0, both ends are moving downward to that. Y equal to x minus 2 into x minus 2. Since here it is y equal to x square, the highest power. So we have seen it here that the highest power is an even number and the coefficient of that highest power is 1, which is greater than 0. It will be x-axis, this is y-axis, this one is 2. But there are two roots on that x minus 2 equal to 0 there. So this means that at this point there is repetition there. So the graph will be like this. Both ends will be upward and it passes from the point 2. So in other words, this 2 value is known as, we call the repeated values here. Now, if y equal to x minus 1, x plus 2 square, 2x minus 1 into x plus 2 square. Now for this equation, we know that y equal to, if we multiply this 2x with this x square, it will become 2x cube and something. Now you see it here that the highest power is an odd number. And a is equal to 2, which is greater than 0. So that means if it is an odd number and it is greater than 0, then the right side of this graph will be upward and the left side of this graph will be downward. So if this is equal to 0, its value will be equal to half. And if this is equal to 0, it will have value minus 2. But you will make it double circle there because it is repeated roots there. Now, for this graph, the right side of this one is half, so it will be upward, passing from this point 2, and there's a turning point on this, and it will be coming downward to that. So whenever there is repeated roots, it will have a turn there, or y is equal to 0 at that value, x is equal to minus 2 there. Now, if y is equal to minus 2x plus 1 into x minus 1 whole square. Now you see in this part that y will be equal to minus 2x into x square, because it is x minus 1 whole square, it will become x square. So that thing will be equal to minus 2x cube and so on. Now here again n is equal to 3, which is an odd number, and A value is minus 2, which is less than 0. So for this equation, when it is having an odd number and it is less than 0, then we know that right side will be downward and the left side will be upward. Now if it is equal to 0, it will be equal to half, and if this is equal to 0, it will be equal to 1, but at 1 there is repeated roots there. Now we have to draw the sketch of this. So when it is odd and A is less than 0, then the right side is downward and the left side is upward. So we start from this upward, crossing from this point 1 there, and this point at 1 it is making a turn there. So it is coming downward to that. So this is according to the sketch of this. When it is an odd and the coefficient is negative, then the left side is upward and the right side is downward. Suppose y equal to x minus 1 whole square into 2x minus 1 whole square. From this equation, we know one thing, that this will be coming x square into x square. So it should be equal to 4x4 and something. If you multiply it, it will become like this 4x4 and something like that. Now, the power is in 4 is an even number. So n is equal to 4, which is an even number, and then a is equal to 4, which is greater than 0. So when it is greater than 0, then both ends are upward. If we draw the sketch of this, this is x-axis, this one is y-axis. If this thing is equal to 0, x minus 1 whole square is equal to 0, then it will be having the value of 1, which is repeated there. Two roots are at this value 1 there. And if this thing is 2x minus 1 is equal to 0 there, then x value is equal to half, which is also repeated there. Now, since it has a value equal to 4 and both ends are upward, so you start from this point, it will make a turn there, then it will add this half and it will turn there. So there are two repeated roots at this value of half and 1 there, and this is the sketch of this y equal to x minus 1 whole square into 2x minus 1 whole square. Let's say y equal to 2x minus 1 whole square into x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus plus 3 there. Let's say we have to draw the sketch of this case. We know that it will giving us x square into x cube into x into x. So it will be equal to 2 square is 4. So 4x power 5 and something like that. If we open it, it will become like this. Now you see it here that it is an odd power. And a is equal to 4, which is greater than 0. So here it is an odd and a is greater than 0, then the right side will be upward and the left side of that graph will be downward. So if we have to plot the graph of this, it is x, it is y. If it is equal to 0, its value will be equal to half, but it is repeated there. If it is equal to 0, then x will be equal to 1. If it is equal to 0, x value will be equal to 2. And if this value is equal to 0, then x value will be equal to minus 3 there. Now, when it is an odd power and the value of a is greater than 0, then the right side will be upward. So right side of this graph will be 2 there, which is upward, passing from this point. Here it will make a turn, and then it will become downward there. So this is a rough idea about all the sketches of these polynomial topics which we can draw, and we can find out the solutions. And the solution means how many times it is going to cut the x-axis there. I think so you have understood all these points, and keep in mind for drawing the sketch and the roots of this polynomials topic.